Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey Gary, hey James.
Hey, excited to be here.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited about this episode.
We've put together some really great, thought provoking questions because, inquiring minds want to know.
Hey, everybody. I just cut out there for a second. I wasn't sure if that last question was for me.
James was saying we put together a list of questions for you, so we're very excited to get this started and give value to the ENS community.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do my best answering those questions. I consider myself just as awesome as everybody else here, and everything that I know is just through kind of like reading and learning and doing, and I just want to let everyone know everything I know and everyone else can can do, and everyone here, with a little bit of practice, you guys are going to be experts in your own particular area, and you're going to be helping other people, and it just makes me feel really good, being here with you guys and helping everybody in this room, and even the people that don't raise their hands. I see you guys.
Absolutely. This is what we believe actually as ENS Academy, that the first step is to learn the fundamentals, and that knowledge is power. And we're very excited. I'm gonna start with the intro and then I'm gonna hand it over to James. So welcome everybody. It's 12 o'clock Central Time. We are ENS Academy. Our mission is to accelerate the adoption of ENS worldwide. We bring ENS experts and entrepreneurs to share their knowledge with the global community. Our goal is to educate, support, and empower anyone who can benefit from this technology. We believe ENS to be an open public utility that belongs to the community. ENS Academy aims to be the place where we can learn the fundamental skills and the possibilities of ENS. Today's topic is about ENS utility. We have Gary Palmer Jr. He is a great entrepreneur. He's an investor. He created a few businesses around domain names and websites, and we're very excited to have him with us. And I see him also proposing new proposals in the DAO and voting for proposals. So we're very excited to talk about that as well. And James, go ahead, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much. Okay, first question, which is very perplexing to me. Why is ENS booming in a bear market? Everything else has been brutally down 60, 70, 80, 90%, and staying down, and in some cases continuing to go down. But ENS is like booming. What do you think is happening with that?
Oh man, this is good. I'm getting questions. I know. Yes. So listen, you just think about the past 12 months, right? We've had all these PFP projects, we've had all this hype. Crypto's been going up, crypto is staying sideways. Bored Apes was the gift that kept on giving. There were a bunch of other gifts out there as well. And people were just putting lots of money into lots of projects. The money going in these projects, sometimes the projects were delivering a lot of fun, they were delivering a lot of community. They were delivering a lot on culture, um, and with that, people were enjoying that. They were a part of that, and then with that came a little bit of speculation, and people were really thinking that this is so much fun, and I'm having so much fun. Other people are going to have fun. You have the flippers, and the price is going up, and then you also have to sprinkle in many of those, not all of them, but many of those projects, the hints or the rumors or the straight up promises of utility that they were going to potentially get or that they were getting. No matter that utility might have been access to a Discord, that utility might have been a physical party, that the utility might have been a promise of the future. And yeah, and then there's all this focus on money and hype. And all that time, ENS was just the cute boy, the cute girl in the corner that nobody was really paying attention to. It was kind of like, yeah, I like ENS. I know ENS. ENS is kind of cool. I got an ENS, but people weren't recognizing its value across all Web3. They weren't recognizing its value across all NFT and crypto projects, or what it means to be a decentralized, human readable naming protocol that has the level of integration that we have. And so as all of the value of everything was going up, nobody was pumping in the ENS names. The 10,000 club wasn't a thing. The 999 numbers were not all minted out. And then, as the bear market's been happening for, I think, over a year now, I think the all-time high is 69,000. That was definitely, obviously, the double top of the bull market. We've been going down since. That people have been searching for a flight to value. And so ENS names being completely ignored and completely undervalued, it's essentially impossible for the project to be dumped on. There are no VCs. There's no hype. There was no, culture, community, 10,000 PFP clubs like we do have now, sort of with the numbers clubs. Right? There's literally nothing. All there were people with diamond hands, and there were people with paper hands, and there was literally nothing in between. And yeah, now it's really not much has changed, right? Like, money is exiting these projects, which might be fun, but may not have utility. They may not have cultural relevance in the future, and people are just looking at solid word ENS names, or looking at the scarcity of the numbers. They're recognizing the value, and it's only had one direction to go. And so that's just that in a nutshell.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of great points, and one of the things that was resonating with me was with crypto in general. There's a lot of shilling, a lot of hype, a lot of influencers who are being paid but don't disclose that. There's a lot of misdirection, and people fall for those, right and left, because it's very sophisticated. But with DNS, like you said, there's no, hype behind it. There's no influencers pushing it. No people with hidden agendas. It's much more transparent, in that regard. Um, a follow up question would be: is we all understand ENS has a variety of utility, right? You've got replacing the wallet address, you've got Web3 identity, and so forth. In your mind, what is most unappreciated about ENS? What is it that you think people don't realize or are not seeing?
Well, that's a really good question. I would have to layer it on twofold. On one hand, I don't think they see the massive the depth and the breadth of the application of ENS names, because and you got to realize, like when someone says, oh, I got my ENS name wallet, and they reference their ENS name as their wallet, like I let it pass, but technically it makes me twitch a little bit, because it's like, your ENS name is not your wallet. Your Ethereum wallet is your wallet, right? Or your Bitcoin wallet is your wallet, right? Your wallet is your wallet of the chain that you're using. And I get it. You're just referencing your ENS name as your wallet because that's the naming identifier with that wallet. And yeah, the end user, that's what they're doing. I get it. But the name is just the name. And you got to realize, every smart contract, every NFT, every wallet, every digital asset on the blockchain, every physical thing in the world that's connected to the internet, not just Gmail, but every Gmail user, every email that you send, every car, every part in every car, can literally have its own name. And when you think about, step away from the ENS names, you think about supply chain tracking. Supply chain tracking is just ones and zeros being followed, right? It's like you have a token, and then you have that token passing from one owner to another. Think about eggs, right? You have eggs that come off the farm. The eggs have a digital token to represent them. And as those physical eggs are moved from one truck to a building to another truck and another building, they're passing through, essentially different wallet holders, or they're accepting the token, and maybe they're adding some data and it's going somewhere else. Those eggs is like a token in the blockchain for supply chain tracking. Like in the normal world, it's like a number in a database. And in the blockchain world, it's a number in a database. But there's no reason why literally everything can't have its own human readable identifier to make, things organized and easy in the world of massive ones and zeros, right? So that's like one thing, is like the incredible depth and scale. Like if Ethereum succeeds, of which to this point is, has significantly, and I believe it will continue to succeed significantly, ENS will continue just to succeed, and ENS is connected to Ethereum, it's connected to Chainlink, it's connected to all of Web3. It's an independent Web3 protocol. It's tied to Ethereum, but it is blockchain agnostic. It's cross blockchain compatible. So I think people are thinking about ENS names. It's really hard to get away from, but they're thinking about them like they're domain names, when they're just like so much more. It's like the fact that they can do what a Web2 domain name does is just not a majority of the pie graph of what an ENS name can do. And then the second thing I think people are really undervaluing with ENS names is that, your ENS name is like freedom of life. It's like proof of life. It's like freedom of life, proof of identity, freedom of identity. It's like freedom of speech. It's freedom to exist, right? Like it's freedom to own your own name. It's your freedom to like let people know where to find you. It's your freedom to be able to receive payments, right? It's like all these things of blockchain, and it's like right to life and right to exist, because a lot of people are denied visibility, they're denied existence, they're marginalized, or they're eliminated, sometimes on purpose, sometimes as just as pieces in the machine. Sometimes it happens in America, obviously more often than not it happens outside of America. And and I think it's really powerful that anybody can have an ENS name. Anyone can be on the blockchain, and with anyone can mint their own NFTs. Anyone can create their own economy as an economy of one, connected with everybody in the blockchain. And in the Web3 world, you don't need to go to GoDaddy and risk that. You don't need to go to PayPal and risk that. You don't need to go to centralized hosting and risk that, because we have ENS, and we have NFTs, and we have decentralized blockchain rails. And it's just easier for people to identify. We're human beings, right? Like we have a habit of naming things and classifying things, and it's just easier to have humanity when you can be an ENS name instead of a 0x address.
Excellent point. Two follow-up questions. So the first one is regarding ENS being used for physical objects. I mean, that blows my mind, and it's very rarely talked about. Like, I very hardly ever hear about that. But if you think about it, I mean, there's billions of objects, so there could be billions of uses, objects using these ENS names. What would that do to the value of ENS names? Would they be just for the best ENS names and then all these subdomains are used? Or do you think it will lift the whole ENS market because of the total addressable market? So that's one follow-up question. And the second is, given how you've outlined so many great use cases of ENS, um, even though ENS allows for DNS to be imported, would that even happen? Would that even be useful? Like, would it be such an easy decision just to go with ENS that people overwhelmingly choose to do that?
What was let me start with the first one, since it's easy, always easy to remember the last one first. Uh, you know, a lot of the vast majority of people don't need to worry about having censorship resistant immutable blockchain technology, and most of us are just benefiting from, you know, this new playground in the world. Some places it's really needed and really required. I don't think Google and Amazon are worried about losing Google.com and Amazon.com respectively. And, you know, for them, it could be a perfectly viable option, or for some, you know, person starting a new company, it could be a perfectly viable option to use their .com, you know, and have like some sort of cross functional working between you know .com and and the blockchain. I think that it's highly likely that it's more, you know, right, is with infinite time, at some point, you know, Google or Amazon could find that they have problems with the DNS system, and even Google or Amazon could find, you know, benefits to using the decentralized rails, and right, so even though they don't have that problem now, they could have that problem later, is one part of it. And then there's also the cultural part of it. In the very beginning, automakers, Ford, you know, GM, they didn't need a website to survive. So they didn't need to have to get their .com, and so they didn't buy Ford or FordSucks.com. But eventually, the culture was so strong that it affected the technology, and the technology was so strong that it affected the culture, that you literally can't sell cars without having, like, effectively, right? You can't sell cars without having your own website. And so it's highly likely that culturally, just things will shift to where ENS is, even though it's, you know, .com is needed and .com is fine, and you don't need the immutability and decentralization of .com, just just for many reasons, right? Ease of mind, and just to be cool, and just to be able to say you're 100% decentralized. There's gonna be a lot of reasons to shift over to that. I'm in huge support, and think it's a very, very good thing that we're forward compatible with ICANN TLDs, that we're, you know, cross, you know, compatible with virtually all 99% of ICANN TLDs, and that provides a lot of opportunity and experimentation. And it only adds value to the .eth names, which are the only decentralized naming protocol for, you know, TLD for the ENS protocol. And it's part of our ENS constitution that we believe in a limited namespace. Like, we in fact do not, according to our ENS constitution, which was ratified, do not believe in expanding the decentralized naming space. We believe in, you know, and compared to, you know, UD, it's the exact opposite. We, you know, any expansion in the namespace can use the decentralized world. I mean, the centralized world. And really quick, think about Bitcoin, right? There's only 21 million Bitcoin. There's one Bitcoin, and people say, well, what are you going to do when the price of Bitcoin is $1 million? How do you have like a Bitcoin that's worth $1? You move the decimal point the other direction, right? You guys got to, you know, we, like, as humans, we want to see bigger numbers, but it's a reverse of thinking. We have to move the decimal point, you know, the opposite direction, and then a lower number is better. It's sort of like the same sort of thinking with the ENS space, is that we're going to be able to increase the decentralized naming space by creating super domains. It's this big concept of super domains, which, speaking with Alan, kind of the .earth project, he said that I coined. I say a lot of things, so, you know, I've always come up with like different ideas. But yeah, the super domain concept, which the .earth project is the first project that's really implementing the super domain concept, so that, yeah, we all know the decentralized space has .eth, and but we all also know that there's one naming protocol, and that one naming protocol is ENS. And so in the case of .earth, when you see earth.eth, you think, okay, that's earth.eth. But since we know it's ENS, and since we know, like, right, that it's ENS, we can sort of all agree that, say, yeah, we know it's .eth, and just to save language, we're going to stop saying .eth, right? You feel me? And so now I'm saying earth.eth. Now we're just going to like all be on the same page magically, and I'm just going to say .earth. And now in Web3, when I say .earth, you know I'm not talking about the Web2 version of .earth, you know, from ICANN. You know I'm talking about the ENS.eth version .earth, right? The super domain .earth. And so now Alan and the .earth project, they can focus on creating, you know, France.earth and Paris.France.earth, and they can create Eiffel Tower.earth or whatever it is. They can create Lion.earth, right? And someone can own Lion.earth, or they can own France.earth. And we all know that's France.earth.eth, right? And so there's going to be this massive naming, you know, where everything is going to get bigger. Everything is going to get more, you know, if I'm right, if there's more, there's sort of like, in terms of second level domains, that'd be like the Earth part of the word. You know, there's a limited supply, right? So there's a limited supply. And what I'm laying out is that in both the digital sense and the physical sense, and not just humans, but also AIs, right? All machines are going to need their own ENS name. The vending machine AI is going to need a ENS to, you know, to help communicate with the drone bot delivery bot AI. And so there's going to be increased demand, which means the value of premium ENS names would go up. And it's going to be different than Web 2 because we're not increasing the namespace. So we're not coming out of the gate with a .net and a .org, right? And so just as a side note, and this is all a lot of information, check the recordings, but on a side note, everyone that does have good ENS names, and you might have a 2-word ENS name, so you might not value it as highly, or a 3-word ENS name, you might not value it as highly. But I would caution people about submitting their grails or their names into a subdomain contract, because you're going to want to be really, really careful. I mean, you could take a decent ENS name, and let's just say, for the sake of argument, you can subdomain it, and you can turn that into like $1 million by selling subdomains. Let's say you could turn into 1,000 Ethereum by selling subdomains. That name might be worth more not wrapped as a subdomain in a subdomain wrapper than you have to have done that, right? It's kind of like, this is like a new concept that I'm sharing with you, but, and this is like huge because we're bringing PFPs into ENS, but you guys got to realize, if and when you ever submit your ENS name to a subdomain wrapper contract, you are essentially opening up like a deck of cards, right? You know how you open up the deck of cards, and you know, like there's some NFTs where you can open them up and you get the NFT and you can sell it before you open it up, and then someone else can open it up. I think Topps did that with the baseball stuff. Gods Unchained did that with some of their packs of cards. Yeah, if you submit your name to a wrapper contract, and then like Pepsi comes and you had like CBDwater.eth, and then Pepsi comes and they were like, yeah, man, we would have given you like, you know, 5,000 Ethereum for that, you know, so, you know, you know, unspoiled, right? It's just really interesting. I just think that everything is a lot bigger than people realize, but I could also be wrong.
Gary, a question on use case, right? So, in my mind, one of the biggest opportunities I see for ENS, I think this could bring a massive wave to ENS, is what's happening with the creator economy, right? So in Web 2, all these billions of people that are on social media creating all this content are not getting the profits, right? Like the platforms are eating all those profits. But one of the biggest changes that's happening in Web 3 is the rise of the creator economy. And it's already started with NFTs, where it's a huge shift to receiving profits, having ownership, right? So all these hundreds of millions of creators that are coming in the creator economy, how are they going to get paid? How are they going to send and receive value? It's going to be through an ENS name, or, you know, a Web3 domain, right? Like, they're not going to put their PayPal address there. They're not going to leave a long wallet address. I mean, like, what are your thoughts on that vision?
No, I mean, just I mean that, that's like, geez, that's like, of course, people want names. People don't want to send, money or messages to 0x48Z, BTF, DX9. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like, look at domain names, look at email addresses, look at gamer tags, look at Instagram handles, look at Twitter handles. These things, Instagram handles, Twitter handles, they sell for, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. People are very serious about, their identities. And yeah, and like, Web 2, yeah, people use PayPal, they use Cash App. Web 3, I think, people are interested in ownership. Once they get into Web 3, I think they're interested in ownership. I think they're interested in crypto. I think they're interested in NFTs. I think that we're in an in-between phase right now where people, they get paid, and their landlord's not into crypto, so their landlord wants to get paid in cash. So they need to convert sometimes some crypto into cash to pay the landlord. But this is like a cat and mouse, waning and waxing, where more and more people, every time there's a bear cycle and there's a pullback, then we push back into another bull market where more and more people are jumping on. There's going to be more and more people natively involved, on blockchain, less of a reason to have to pull out, and or there may be solutions that allow you to transfer, between crypto and cash with more ease. But the trend is very clear with, not, forget about cryptocurrencies and crypto and all that stuff. The trend is very clear that NFTs are taking over, right? Like, even if the banks want, like, to make Bitcoin illegal and they want to do Fed coin, on the fun business side of the world where people are making money, the metaverse is billions and trillions of dollars in future economic growth. And for me, it's clearly going to be done on Ethereum and Chainlink and other EMV compatible blockchains like Polygon. And that's exactly where we see the Web 2 giants playing. eBay bought Known Origin. That's EMV. Reddit just launched on, Polygon. That's EMV. Facebook and Instagram are testing on Polygon, right? It's all in the same system. And so as we see ENT, Bored Apes, biggest project with all the sub projects they have, that's Ethereum. Gary V, billionaire, incredible community, blue chip, multiple blue chip projects, including Fly Fish Club. It's all Ethereum, So, Paris Hilton, even though she got paid to do, the UD name, like, organically, if you look at what she actually does, it's mainly on Ethereum, right? Because that's where the liquidity is. Even when things are happening not on Ethereum, they're bridged to Ethereum because that's where the liquidity is. That's where all the players are, right? People. I mean, that's just my world. I know some people try to push, blockchains that start with the letter C, or blockchains that start with the letter S, or who knows? You know what I mean? But it all, for me, I try to not be biased. I try to go back. I look at the data. I try to look at the numbers. I look at the volume. I look at the fee volume. I look at the transaction volume. I look at the NFT, sales volume, and it's all happening on Ethereum. And so, yeah, Web3 people are going to want to get paid in that ecosystem. And when they get paid in that ecosystem, it is possible that they can use a UD name to get paid. But then when they take that name and they want to log into a Web3 website, they want to log into an OpenSea or an Etherscan or a Uniswap or a number of other many sites that are just always coming out organically all the time. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. It's impossible to keep up. If you know any, they're not listed on the ENS .domains website, they should be. They get themselves some visibility and a link. But your name's not going to show up there, right? And so people are going to shift to the ENS because of the main use case of usernames, but then yeah, they're going to get paid, and it's just going to be easier, and you're just going to be able to say your name. People are going to know your name. You know who your favorite influencer is. You know who they are. You're just going to be able to type it in. It's going to come up, and it's just going to be very, very easy. It's going to be, and it's amazing. It's good that it's a question, but like me, like being into it, it's like, oh yeah, that's a question. That's amazing, because just look at Cash App. You know what I mean? Look how people get paid now. Look at their PayPal addresses. It's like people and their identity. It's very, very important. And then the personal branding of it. It was really funny. I was at a side note. Oh my god, I feel so bad for this guy. I was at this festival yesterday, and I was checking out all the vendors at the festival, and really good music, really good food, really good fun. And there's this one vendor, and I'm like I'm checking him out, and I'm looking at what he's selling. I'm like trying some things, and I'm like, oh my god, this is really, really good. Or I'm thinking, oh my god, this might be really, really good. And then and then I have this problem where I get too excited. There's too much stimulation. I walk away, and it's like, oh man, I try to remember like who had the product and who had the name. And all these people, these vendors, they treat their businesses like their storefronts at these festivals, like their one-time sales. And they should be treating it like, oh, I'm not here to get a customer. I'm here to get a reoccurring client. And when they're going to get a reoccurring client, like they don't have their websites up, they don't have their names up, they don't have their branding. Even if their branding is decent, it's like, okay, this is your brand, but like, what's your domain name? How would I find you on Google? I got to like remember that and type that into Google. And this one guy on his shirt, he had like an Ethereum shitcoin on it. It was called, I never heard of it before. It was called Ethereum Max. And I walk away and I go, listen, if this is good, and I try to remember who you are, I'm not going to know the name of your. I was like, do you have a business card? He's like, oh no, I don't have any business cards. I was like, I'm gonna think, oh, it was the Ethereum Max guy. And yeah, so your ENS name is your personal brand, right? Your ENS name is your identity. Your ENS name is your business card. That is you in Web3, and people will and do carry that into Web2, just like they carry it from Web2 into Web3. Yeah, and it's just critical. And you think about Instagram names and Twitter names, and in the future, you're going to own your ENS name, and it's going to be the same thing. And
Yeah, and
because your name won't change, it's going to be like even more valuable by degrees of magnitude.
Right, and the DAO is actually investing in creating like more like a Web3 phone book for ENS where you just put in the name, and if the owner of that name associated their email, their website, you'll have a profile photo. It's kind of like a business card, right? So I can see how that could be a place where we go first to look up a name of a business and see it in a phone book, you know. James, you were saying?
yeah, just going back to the creator economy for a second, um, I can see in my mind, in the not too far future, there will be hundreds of millions of people that are making a part-time or full-time living in the creator economy, and by and large, they're going to get paid by, you know, ENS. And it's like it blows my mind because there's a very limited supply of good ENS names, right? I mean, I think that says a lot about where the values are headed. And then switching directions to corporations, like in my mind, it's 100% clear corporations are going to be using ENS names because here's my rationale. You've got about 700 million people that are in crypto worldwide, and that's going to go in the billions. um, Corporations are all about removing friction, right? Like if people want to pay by crypto, they will make that happen. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but eventually. And if they're going to make paying by crypto a reality, they're going to need an ENS name. They're not going to give a stupid long wallet address. So what will that do to drive up values of ENS names? I mean, just imagine the market size when you include the creator economy, you include corporations. Um, and the very, very limited, tight supply of good names.
I mean, it's significantly more than that, because you're talking about, I mean, basically, like you just included, let's say, like, the majority of all humans, right? So if you include, if you say every human in the world needs an ENS name, well, that's like telling people in 1995 that every single human in the world needs needs an email. And you're like, Gary, everybody in the world does need an email. It's like, yeah, but everyone in the world has 10 emails, at least on average. And so, you can sort of think in the future, every human in the world is going to have an ENS name. Every human in the world is going to have multiple. Like, I have Gary Palmer Jr.eth. I hope one day I have 3636.bayc.eth. I hope that I get a subdomain ENS name of every cool club that I'm in, like NFT club. I think that'd be a cool companion piece to be a naming identifier inside the club. But then you got to realize, like I alluded to earlier in the call, every smart contract and every digital asset is going to have its own ENS name. So bayc.eth, that might be the ENS name of the contract. And then 3636.bayc.eth, that might be the URL, the Web3 URL, that if you type that in, you'll see a picture of my NFT. And then gary.bayc.eth, that's my actual name, so that goes back in the me column. But then also, like I was saying, every IoT, not just IoT device, but every IoT device, so every internet connected drone, every telephone that has the IMEI number, right? Sort of in addition to or in replacement of like a social security number or IMEI number or something like that, it's going to have an ENS. It is or could have an ENS name, right? And then, but then it gets so much deeper, because I was talking about supply chain tracking. And, we have supply chain tracking. Supply chain tracking could be potentially done on a blockchain or a side chain. And then when that tracking is done, it uses, it's a token, and it tracks a token, or it tracks the address. And so why couldn't that address have, a human readable naming component? So I talk about this often, but, you could have honda.eth. That's the homepage, the decentralized homepage for Honda. And then you could have civic.honda.eth. That's a list of all the civics they have ever done. And you could have 123.civic.honda.eth. That's your civic. And then there's a section of records that mention when it was manufactured, when it was bought. You have all these fields, that in the name fields of that record. You have tracking of the bolt. Every bolt. It's like, this is when the brake pad was made. This is when it reached the factory. This is the Honda Civic that the brakes were installed in. This is the date that it was installed. Here's the ENS name of the Honda Civic that those brakes went into. And so now you have not only names with records, but you have names with records cross-referencing other ENS names that have records. And so every physical object could be supply chain tracked with a human readable name. And, that's like the super extreme view, right, of how this could be pushed. But I'm just thinking about this in a blockchain world that is Ethereum focused. And, and ENS is the naming protocol for that. Naming is very, very significant. It's very significant. I'm not doing a good enough job emphasizing how important not just naming, but naming convention, categorization is. And I think that there's going to be a lot of creative applications that people have and can come up with, which is almost like kind of scary, because a lot of people have these really good names, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens when people start wrapping them. We're still in the Wild West of Web3, kind of.
I totally agree, Gary. I mean, in my mind, it is so freaking stupid to be using a long hexadecimal wallet address. I mean, to me, it's like being in the it's like in the caveman era, right? It's like, I'm sure at one point people were typing in long IP addresses into the browser, right? But if you imagine trying to do that today, you would look dumb as a doorknob, right? And to me, we're still in that phase. Like, people are still using wallet addresses, but it's you know um, a temporary thing, and it's what excites me that we're so early that people don't realize the opportunity ahead of us. I'm going to ask one last question and then give it to my co-host and the rest of the audience to open it up, and that is, I completely agree with you that NFTs are blowing up, and I've never seen anything grow like it. I mean, I've seen MasterCard announced they're getting into NFTs or opening it up to their customers. Visa's doing the same. Facebook, YouTube. I mean, platforms with billions of people. And I think there's going to be a tsunami. How does that rise affect ENS?
The rise of NFTs and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah. How will it impact ENS, you think?
Um, every single project that comes out is affecting a group of people, right? So it's like bubbles of people. Um, Not everyone relates to lions, but some people relate to rats. Not everyone relates to rats, but some people like apes, and then there's individual, right? Like everyone is like their own audience, and every single audience out there is like their own community, and each of these communities are they're new communities that are popping up in this new Web3 world, right? This Web3 world, we, by and large, we all share. We are all a part of this Web3 world. And this Web3 world has roads, and we all use these roads, right? There's shared roads and there's shared services. There's a lot of public goods that we all need in order to survive. And by essentially helping other people, we're helping ourselves. And every single one of these projects, you know, basically more or less, they're using Ethereum, and they're using public goods, and they're a part of this larger, wider system network that they as individuals are creating, coming together, as individual nodes. They're coming to create this one big thing, their community. And all of these communities come together to create this one bigger thing, right? They're each individual nodes. And ENS is this common layer framework. I don't know if it's like the postal system, or if it's the bank wire system. I mean, it really is none of that, because you're not sending money with ENS. You're just like, the wall is just going, hey, this person wants to send money to GaryPalmerJr.eth. Is that a record that exists on ENS, or is using GaryPalmerJr.com? Is that a record that exists on ENS? And ENS just goes yes or no. And if it's a yes, it says this is the 0x address where you send the money, or this is the IPFS hash where the website is, right? Or this is what he's listed as his favorite color. Um, but regardless, like, ENS is there for everybody. And so it's kind of like it goes hand in hand, right? So each of these projects, if they're not using ENS, like, I would recommend that they immediately go to login.xyz, and they think about some creative ways of integrating ENS with their community, giving their community subdomains, giving their NFTs subdomain identifiers. Why should I have to go figure out what the contract address is for the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and then have to, and then put that in OpenSea, and then put in 3636 in order to find what my NFT is, right? I should just be able to go in 3636 or like 1234.coolcats, or whatever the case, and it should just immediately work. And so all of these projects, they would immediately be able to tap into 450,000 unique addresses who are using Ethereum. They'd be able to immediately tap into thousands and thousands of people that are part of the 10,000 club. It just makes a lot of sense. And by them connecting into the ENS, they're just using more of the same. If you're using Ethereum and you're not using ENS, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't. I don't know how to it's like peanut butter and not jelly or something, you know what I mean, unless you hate peanut butter and jelly. But assuming you like peanut butter and jelly, it's like having a peanut butter sandwich with no jelly. It's just like it doesn't make any sense why you'd be using Ethereum and not ENS to do your thing. And ENS is there for every single project, and every single project will be using ENS. And by tapping into ENS, you're only making your project connected to every single other project in the world, right? And so I'm not sure if that answered the question, but there's so much power and potential that people are not yet recognizing.
Oh, awesome, awesome, Gary. Thanks so much. Okay, so I'll hand it over to my co-host.
Yes, Gary, wow. I thank you so much. I mean, this episode was pure foresight and insights that are super valuable in my opinion. The idea that your house can have an ENS and then you track everything with that and physical objects. It's just the possibilities are endless, right?
Yeah,
And
did
it's
you
very
see the guy that
exciting.
made a key? He made a key.
Yeah,
He made a token in the wallet, and the token was a name. And so that wasn't a smart contract that had an ENS name. That wasn't like, that was basically like an NFT ENS name. And if you have that, it was basically like a key, right? So that was a case where the key to your door had its own ENS name. So you think I'm crazy? Someone already made it so the key to your door has its own ENS name.
right,
That
right.
works.
You can, I mean, custom contracts are coming too, and the possibilities are truly endless. It's like a Swiss Army knife of Web3. ENS, I mean, we didn't even cover all the utility that it's like, yes, everyone needs an email and everyone has 10 emails, but ENS is not just an email. Even though, by the way, for those who don't know, if you have an ENS name, you automatically have an email client for your ENS name. So that's very exciting, and there's a lot more you can do with it, right? We're to respect the time of Gary. We're going to start with the Q&A with the community now. I think we have 93. By the way, thank you, Gary. Thank you. It was amazing. 9396. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Great respect to the whole community, to the great space and the panel. I have a really quick question. I was part of very interesting spaces. Like a couple of minutes ago, we was touching the everything related to racism in Web3 and NFTs. Really interesting discussion, but it took. I took a question a route towards true decentralization, and I asked a question related to ENS being like, for me, the frontier of building these decentralized new structures. And my question was like how the host of that space feels about ENS, and the answer was like, I'm bullish short and midterm and bearish long term. So I asked like, what is long term for him? And the answer was like 10 years, like beyond 10 years. And so I asked why, and the answer was like, Ethereum is not going to be able to scale to really become like a global monetary system, global network that will just function for everyone. It made me think. So I wanted to to drop this question related, because everything is related to Ethereum. If Ethereum scales and becomes unstoppable and just keeps on expanding, we are good, and ENS is good, and all these use cases that Gary just mentioned, we are just getting started. I agree with that. And the topic connected to Ethereum was also how MetaMask has been a center of all this, because probably 95% of us are using MetaMask. And there was also a claim that it's connected to central banks through the ownership of MetaMask. So I just wanted to throw those two things, MetaMask and scaling of Ethereum, to just pick up your brains, guys, because I'm asking questions. I just want to know as much as possible, because we are on the brink of collapse of fiat system. I was just like blown away by what's happening in China, in Thailand. People are in Russia as well, like not able to withdraw their funds. So this is becoming an alternative right now. Where do you store your savings, your money? Where do you go? And for me, it's Ethereum, and it's ENS, and it's becoming urgent. So I just want to explore. The more we know, the safer we sleep. So that's
Yeah.
my question. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So like, just to say, yeah, sure. Ethereum could fail, right? I don't know the future. The most important aspect to me with Ethereum is having like an immutable base layer, for it being, self-sovereign and censorship resistant. And then one of the ways that it might scale is I mean, there's a lot of things that are being worked on, but additional EMV related blockchains, even if they're not as um, you know like decentralized, as long as there's as long as we have like the most decentralized system at the core. um, I would I would, as like someone who's not a lawyer or not a financial advisor or anything like that, I would caution anybody from overextending their investments, into anything, because anything could go to zero. I mean, just to say it, Ethereum could fail, ENS could fail. I don't think that's going to happen by a long shot, but yeah, it could, and that's why you shouldn't overextend into any one thing. With that being said, where the internet was invented in the 50s or the 60s, and then you have the 70s, and then there was some things that happened in the 80s. I think we got email in the late 80s or the early 80s or the 90s, and domain names started becoming really popular, and the late 80s, early 90s. 1994, people were just getting Netscape, and like nobody had the internet really. It was just like a school, like you probably had it in school in 1994. And then you had the dot-com crash in 2000. And then, thinking this through, you had the year 2005. Bitcoin was invented in 2008. Yeah, in the year 2005, domain names were good domain names. You could look it up on DN Journal. You could type in DN Journal 1995, look at those domain names. Like they were selling for six figures easy, which was a lot of money, a couple decades ago. And yeah, I mean, it was like three. You could easily say it was like 100,000. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but it was a lot more money than it is today. And it was like you could have said that was like wildly speculative. I mean, 2005, people were saying, the internet still wasn't, going to scale, and they were saying, the only people that did online dating were Craigslist killers, and no one's going to put their social security number in to get a job, and no one's going to put their credit card in to order something online. Like ridiculous, right? It's like everyone online dates, everyone puts their personal data in the internet. You are not allowed to get a job unless you use the internet. The internet was able to scale, and so if someone was to like, it's really so. On one hand, this is wildly speculative, and on the other hand, people are really good at solving problems, right? And on the third hand, the internet that we had wasn't the best internet. It wasn't the internet with the most privacy or the best privacy or really any privacy. There are a lot of things that was missing, and we could have shifted, we could have forked and like gotten a better internet, but because the internet that we had the network adoption that it did, it's kind of the internet that we were stuck with. And so now that's the case with Bitcoin, is that we're stuck with the Bitcoin that we have. Like the Bitcoin that we have could have like been different. It could have had you know, potentially privacy features or this or that. But it is what it is, and it does what it does. And if someone was to fork it, they wouldn't call the fork Bitcoin. They would call the original Bitcoin Bitcoin. And with Ethereum, Ethereum was the first to do, what it did, and I just don't see it failing. I just like in 1990 when like I don't know if you know or not, you think about the weird sounds from the dial-up internet, and you think about images loading line by line, very very one image very very slowly loading. It's like you had to like walk away and go like watch TV for a half hour, depending. And then people said, and like, nobody was using the internet back then. It was very scarce. There wasn't streaming video and things of that nature. Like there wasn't streaming video and things of that nature. And if there was, it was like someone's side project, very, very, you know, hobbyish. But if you were to say, hey, in the future, it's going to be like billions of people with supercomputer smartphones streaming live video across, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of people at the same time with practically no latency. You know, you wouldn't believe. You're like, yeah, some the kids are going to have supercomputer smartphones and not have running water. It's just it's just unbelievable, right? But this is the future that we have because we were able to solve those problems, you know, because we were able to come out, we were able to make, you know, fiber optics instead of Ethernet, and because we were able to make the package smaller by creating new breakthrough technology, cutting edge technology, known as MP3 and MP4, you know, where they were able to, you know, do file compression, and we were able to figure out ways of scaling, you know, and it's not always perfect how data is transferred around the internet and how information gets to you, and it, you know, it's created other problems. But I wouldn't if I was a betting man, which obviously in crypto I am, I wouldn't vote against progress or people or technology or for a small determined group of people to change the world.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. That was awesome. January Walker, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very fascinating conversation, and I'm obsessed with the utility portion of Web3 technology. But even more importantly, what's always top of mind for me, just because my personal opinion, we messed up Web2, the laws that surround it, personal privacy, you know, like it, pretty much everything that goes along with that. I don't need to digress into it too much because I think we all understand that front of it. But when it comes to ENS, and it comes to creating the right laws and legislation around this, I would be very interested in hearing outside thoughts from other individuals, perhaps at least around what their concerns would be, because we cannot take the same laws from Web 2 and apply it to Web 3 and say, yeah, everything is fine, because we know that it's not.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, thank you for that, and thank you for that line of thinking. There's a lot happening across the world with regulation and governments and cryptocurrency and regulations, and there's a lot of different trains of thought, and you know, potentially a lot of conflicts, including conflict of information and and people that are sharing information with people making decisions. Like they may have, you know, other direct conflicts, and then there's also the, you know, that's just within, you know, the emerging industry. There's also the conflict and the reconciliation between let's call it Web 1 and Web 3, right? Before we even get to Web 2, like Web 2 is this whole other bag of chips, but we have, right, things like the Federal Reserve and the Federal Reserve's view on cryptocurrency proper, and how regulations are looking at cryptocurrency proper has a direct effect on, you know, us people playing in the NFT and digital monkey picture space, you know, including ENS names. And I think it's really important to remember, at least for me, and how I learned about America, is that we have, you know, freedom of speech that we talk to as a constitutional right, as part of the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights. And freedom of speech includes, by and large, you know, 99.9% of the time, it includes freedom of math. And it's really important everyone to start recognizing that freedom of math is freedom of speech. And we don't want, you know, the regulation of math. And part of the regulation of math is saying, like, what computations are and aren't you allowed to run on your computer? Are you allowed to run a Bitcoin node on your computer? Are you, and that relates to ENS. Are you allowed to run an IPF interplanetary file system F? I'm having a hard time. Interplanetary file system node. I'll just spell it out right there. And then gets much deeper into current regulations and current talks of regulations about self-hosted wallets. I think they're calling them self-hosted wallets, which is just a wallet. It's just like math. And there's other people that can probably explain this better than me. But it seems like there's talks of making it sort of illegal for people to hold their own Bitcoin, or making it illegal for people to hold their own Ethereum or things of that nature, and or making it so you have to be an institutional investor to do so. And if those things were true, then then it could also be sort of not legal to hold NFTs, right? And there's these just base freedoms which America was sort of founded on, and blockchain sort of amplifies, right? So blockchain sort of amplifies people's freedom of speech. It amplifies their freedom of commerce. I think we were talking about it amplifies their right to live, their right to exist, the right to have a name, to the right to have a blog, the right to receive money, and money itself, being a form of freedom of speech. And just making sure that these rights aren't taken away from any group of people, so that any group of people is allowed to custody their own money. Just like I can custody my own cash in my wallet. I don't need the bank to custody my cash. None of us need a bank to custody our crypto or our crypto assets or our NFTs or anything of that nature.
Thank you, Gary. That was
I,
great.
I have time. I have time. I have time
Okay,
if
that's what.
January has
Yeah,
a
yeah,
follow up
that's
as
what I
well.
was gonna ask, if it's okay. We take extra time. Go ahead, January.
Well, so no, I just realized that we are at the top of the hour and there's another individual that has their question. So I can just reach out about my other ones separately. So I'll yield the floor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Web3intern.eth. It's your turn.
Hey everybody.
Your signal is bad, Web3.
Oh,
You're coming out very choppy.
hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. GM everybody in the space, ENS Academy, thank you for hosting. Gary, thank you for being here. Shout out Zero, shout out January. Believe in your mission, blockchain voting all the way. But real quick, I did have a question for you guys, because I know we're big in the ENS community. I know we see Ethereum obviously has the most developers, so we're going to find the most ways to scale. I'm thinking individually, right? What do you think? And of course, this is just going to be an opinion or your opinion. But what do you think we should be building that you haven't seen yet, or what gets you, I guess, out of bed and that gets you motivated about ENS, and what have we? I'm thinking. I'm trying to come up with the words as I'm saying it, but honestly, what haven't you seen yet that you think, okay, that's it. That's going to be the future of the ENS community, or perhaps you've seen something already that pretty much piques your interest.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I really get the exact essence of the question, but what like in terms of the ENS community, the sort of like the shining star that I've seen of everybody throughout the entire space is the sort of the if I had to boil it down to a few words, the integrity, the authenticity. Everyone is so generally excited about the utility of ENS, the potential of ENS, and what this means to the precipice of a new world, the new ownership of our identities and our names, our ability to have usernames that we own, to have not just the wallets and the payment addresses, but to have these owned identities that we're in control of, that are not assigned to us, that are free to move or sell or whatever, sovereignly in our wallet. And how people in the ENS community share that information, and they buy other people's ENS names with the intent of gifting them their ENS names, right? There's like so many people, and I'm not talking about things like the NBA example. I'm talking about things like like individuals, right? And sometimes corporations, but really it's the amount of love that and just respect and excitement that everybody has. One of the questions earlier in the show was, why haven't we dumped, or why are we pumping, right? And again, it's just because the excitement and the authenticity and the people purchasing into something real that is a done product that already has utility, that has already delivered, that continues to deliver, that has, unrefutable metrics of like wildly incredible success connected to, a blockchain, which is equally, if not more awesome, including Chainlink and what's happening there in the world of CCIP. And and so with that being said, CCIP and what's happening with that cross interoperability blockchain component, and how that's going to allow the crossing of data and information between the offline world and ENS subdomains. So not just so that we have this naming system, but we have data communicating with other data across the naming systems is really, really exciting. And the and what I really want to see from the community, sort of more, and more as we move forward, is that I want to see them with the most respect and candor and empathy possible. I want to see all of you guys encourage other projects to integrate ENS, and by integrating ENS, they're integrating sign-in with Ethereum. Sign-in with Ethereum, which developers can learn more at login.xyz. I want to see more applications, integrating with Ethereum and ENS, and I want to see more building. And I want to, yeah, sure, I want to see Instagram, and I want to see Twitter. I want to be able to log in with my ENS and my Ethereum wallet. But I would rather also see 1,000 other new projects come on with signing with Ethereum there. I would like to see all the projects of 2021 add signing with Ethereum. I'd like to see all the projects of 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017 to integrate signing with Ethereum. So go to their help desk, go to their feature request, DM their support, pose a question in the Discord. Don't be annoying. Set yourself a calendar reminder to do that once a month. Not once every 2 days or not once a week. And because if you care about ENS, then the name of the game is to get more integrations. You guys already own all the grails, and you guys are constantly searching for new cool names, and this is the future. It's now time for you to be the self-fulfilling prophecy to make it happen. It's time for you to do your 1%. I'm not asking you to do 100%. I'm asking 100 people to do 100%, right? I'm asking a million people to do 1%. And then on average, maybe some of you guys will do 5% or 10%. What does 10% mean? Owning one ENS token, voting in the DAO, participating in the discuss board, getting alerts from the ENS DAO so when the meetings are happening, or just like, displaying your own ENS name and encouraging the products that you use to say, hey, I love your product. The only thing that would make me love this more is if you did this one thing, and I bet a lot of other people would love it too. And I'm super excited
Wow.
about all that.
Yes, we're very excited too. Gary, I have 100 more questions. I definitely would love to have another space with you where we can just talk about the DAO, right? Talk about what it is, what they're doing, and how they're doing it. And I think, maybe we can have a panel if you would like to invite someone else who has also experience with the DAO and the team, because I think that interface is important to get the community to understand how this is, what's powering all of this. Yes, we have the names, and we're learning about the utility, but all that came from somewhere, and it's fascinating to kind of explore that. So we would love to do that. I see 9396, you have your hands up. That will be the last question before we end the space. Go ahead, 9396.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. It's very rare that we have a politician on Spaces. Hello, January. I wanted to drop maybe an elephant to this room because, in my opinion, the coexistence of states, I mean nations, and central banks is impossible if those states allow the self custody of not only wallets but self custody of our funds, of our money, of our crypto, and of our NFTs. I don't see any way that this current model of not only United States but the EU, the whole world, if they are to allow us to self custody our money. I don't remember when that was the last time in human history when humans were allowed to have something on their own. This model that exists right now, and you, January, are a politician within that system, is based on taxation and monopoly of violence and extracting your money and funds through applying this violence on the society. So, how do you see, as a politician, maybe you see a model that citizens and people generally can self custody their own money, their own wallets? And what does it mean? It will mean a total new system, like from the roots, right? If I'm not wrong. What is your opinion, General, on this one?
Yeah, and I certainly don't want to take away the room from everything that we've been doing, but I think that there will be a new system that is coming up, and it's being put in place as we see it. Like, this is a transformation, and it's good, right? There are good things that are going to come out from humans advancing technologically, right? And the biggest thing in my mind is we need to make sure that we are having the right people in place, to put the right legislation in place to create this framework that fosters trust and protects the people. And so, I think that you were 100% right with what you were saying. That we are going to see a change here.
No, this is not a
And like,
change. I think this is like a collapse of the system because how do you see the system right now with the central banks coexisting with us having our own money and our own how do you
I see the ability to coexist between the two groups. I don't. So here, and I'll leave it at this. Um, Factionalism is not helpful to humans. Factionalism is not helpful to humans. And we factionalize everything. We factionalize politics. We factionalize crypto. We factionalize, Web3 or groups or cultures or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and we can work and live and breathe together and not have to hate each other, right? Just because there's one system doesn't mean it means that, like, so for example, you mentioned the central bank. Just because we have that doesn't mean that it has to topple crypto or vice versa, right? So I see this as collaborate. But I am so sorry, I gotta go.
you
Thank you,
didn't answer the
January.
question. Okay, thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you,
You didn't answer the
January.
question.
Thank you, 9396. We don't want to. The topic here is ENS utility. Thank you guys for joining us today. Gary, I mean, you are a true pioneer in this space. I like your foresight, your vision that you shared with us today is so valuable. I'm gonna definitely listen to this again. I will be uploading this episode to Spotify and iTunes. I pinned up the tweet I had for the latest episodes we uploaded. If you missed them, please subscribe, retweet our podcast, and we again, I can't thank you enough, Gary. We should schedule another one about the DAO if that's okay with you, and then yeah, that's we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. You have all been just so kind and so welcoming, and this has been uh, really great just to share this information and really get really deep. Yeah, I feel like we barely even touched upon like the common ENS. Yeah, just have your name and check out the records that you can update in your ENS record. Consider getting yourself a cool little HTML IPFS business card website with a link to your Twitter or your Instagram or your OpenSea. Really straightforward stuff. Yeah, and just experiment, with what you have there. Add a website, add your addresses, make sure you understand how the security and the privacy works. um, and yeah, and please start encouraging your favorite applications to go to login.xyz and start integrating signing with Ethereum to your favorite projects sooner than later. And keep these spaces up. I'm happy to connect and do more of these with you guys again. You guys are doing really great work. Thank you. Are you on speaker?
Oh, thank you for
Yeah.
thank you, Gary. I was saying thank you for joining us. I wanted to end the space, but before I end it, I'm going to announce our upcoming space on Friday. It's going to be with Monty Khan, who's a renowned internet entrepreneur and domainer. He owns nameshop.com. He's the CEO of a number of important companies like Moniker and Domain Systems. So we'd love to see you there, guys. And with that, please retweet and support the movement. Appreciate you all. Thank you, Gary. See you soon. Have a good day.